Welcome, everybody, to the Dr. Nobody podcast. Thank you once again for tuning in, my listeners. I appreciate your time. Today, we have my boss from my company. Yes, it's kind of weird that I have my boss on here, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Dr. Kevin Fabrizio. Dr. Fabrizio, can you please just give us the listeners, a little bit about yourself, your bio, what you do, what's up?
Sure. Well, first off, thank you, Dr. Nobody, for having me here tonight. It's a real treat. This is actually my first interview ever. Usually I'm the one that's doing the interview, and so it's really nice to be on the other end of it. So, nice. And I apologize if I sound a little nasally, but we'll get through this. Something I was looking forward to for a while now. About me, so I am a senior vice president, medical strategy director at Neon, which is a promotional advertising agency. I started back in, grad school. I got my PhD in microbiology and immunology from the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. That was in the Bronx. Before that, I got my bachelor's at Syracuse University. So, born and raised, really haven't left New York my entire life. And then after grad school, did a short stint as a postdoc over at NYU. And then began my career in advertising. Went from one company, Havas, was there for about 5 years, and then moved on to where I'm at now and where you're at now, which is Neon. Been there for about 6-7 years now. So, it's something that I never really thought that I'd be getting into. It's every day is new, it's exciting. I'm sure we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But just a little bit about me personally, a loving husband, a proud father of 2 children. What do I do in my spare time? I don't have much spare time, but I like to read. I read fantasy novels, science fiction.
Like erotic movies. Fantasy or like fantasy.
None of that. No, this is straight up role playing fantasy, magicians and wizards in the forest and whatnot.
Nice. Still sounds erotic to me, but that's fine.
None of that. And then, we like to shop a lot. We'll go out, we travel, we do a lot of these types of things. So, basically, nice, quiet family life when I get to do that.
Nice. So I have a couple questions for you. I guess the first one is about what a postdoc is, because it may not be familiar to everybody. Yeah. What's a postdoc, and did you feel like you had to do a postdoc? Because I know what a postdoc is, so that's why I have a follow-up question. But what's a postdoc, and did you feel like the postdoc role helps you prepare you for your current career?
Yeah. So, and this was 10, 11 years ago now. When I graduated from graduate school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Be honest with you, the normal transition was just going straight into a postdoc, which is basically the work that you did after you graduated, basically postgraduate work to get more experience, right? And the idea was for, really everybody thought that you had 2 paths when you were in grad school. You either went to academia, which was getting your postdoc, or you go into industry, which is basically working in the pharmaceutical company labs. And I did it, and we'll get into it, I think, later on when we talk about, the different things in my career that kind of made me who I am. Again, I wasn't really sure what it was I wanted to do after I graduated. And I didn't feel like I was set up in grad school, or maybe there wasn't just enough programs, or there just wasn't enough visibility to say, this is what you can do with a PhD. I know they have that stuff all over the place now. But back then, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. What are all the different options? And maybe back then, there just wasn't that many options. When I look back at it, it's like, were these positions even a thing back then? It was only 10, 11 years ago, but a lot has changed in that time. So, did a postdoc set me up? I think some of the things that I learned about myself set me up for success in my career. Because now I'm in a completely different career. I'm not at a bench anymore. I'm working, in a actual advertising agency. So, I think some of the things that I've learned about myself as a person, of what it is I really want out of life, I think that's what the postdoc set me up for.
I feel like I can relate as well. I knew when I went into graduate school doing my PhD, I did not want to do academia either, but I didn't know what else there was until I got closer to graduating. I got into programs and they introduced me to different things. And what I'm starting to hear from other people as well is it's you go into doing a PhD because that's what people do. They just go to the next level and they just want to do it. But it doesn't mean necessarily they know what they're going to end up doing at the end. Some people do. It's fine. But, the statistic is that most people don't even do PhDs or finish it. It's about like 1% to 2% of the population actually completes a PhD. So it's a big landmark in anybody's life that can do it. So before you mentioned, like, you really you didn't really know why you were getting into advertising. Is it something it trickled in as you were getting in there and you got more excited as you progressed? Or was it something that you read about and you were like, yeah, I'm going to do that based on, I don't know, something on LinkedIn or resume, like a website or whatever?
I don't remember where I found the job posting. It might have been on LinkedIn, but it was for a medical writer job. And I didn't know what medical writing was. As I kind of read more about the job description, I was like, I think I could do this. Like, I've written articles, I'm published, for my, graduate career. So I published a number of articles. Is it the same thing? I didn't know. So I applied, got, interviewed, got the job, and kind of was thrown into it, and I was being expected to know certain things. And it was scary. It was definitely scary at first because it was like, wow, this is completely different. I was making like PowerPoint presentations, right? I never did that. I mean, I did that, but it wasn't, it was for my own research. It wasn't for somebody else's, for like a speaker program or anything like that. So, I was doing that and I wasn't very good at first. I mean, when I set my own standards, I said, no, this isn't good. I could do better. So as time went on and I said, okay, I'm learning this. I found a couple of mentors, people to kind of teach me, show me the ropes. And I think these were like account people. These weren't even like other medical folks. It was account people. And I started getting better and better and better. And then I moved up the ladder. And what excites me the most is that, every day I'm learning something new. I'll one day I'm working on atopic dermatitis. The next day we'll get something, in that for a disease I never even heard of, that maybe affects like 1,000 people in the world. And you're like, wow, constantly learning, we get paid to have fun because I think the job is fun, and when, when you're getting paid to just learn about different diseases and how you're going to, educate, different audiences on this disease, I think that's just it's so attractive. It's, mind boggling that this was something that I didn't know about back in the days. Maybe it's because I wasn't set up for that type of path. I think, my path was different back then. And it was definitely a situation where I had to kind of create a completely new path from the path that was already decided for me, because I do think we all have our own paths that are kind of already there. But I kind of had to break that path and I kind of had to make my own. And that's really what I did.
So you figured it out on your own, basically.
Yeah. And that's the story of my whole life, is really just figuring things out on my own, for a number of reasons. But I kind of had to, from, the time I would say 13, 14 on, I had to figure things out on my own. The thing by doing that, though, is, it takes you a little bit longer.
Sure.
To get to where you need to be. So, sometimes I'm still a little rough around the edges. I wish I was a little bit more polished. But that's okay. It's just still, every day I sleep well at night and every day I wake up and I'm like, I'm proud of what I have, what I've accomplished, the team that I have, and what it is that we're able to do every day. So, it's okay having to, teach yourself how to do things, how to, kind of go out there on your own. It can be scary, but it's worth it. And that's what I did. I took the leap. What's that saying from, the end of Willy Wonka? What happened to the kid that, wanted everything or wished for everything and he got what he wanted? That's kind of what I'm living. And, it's a fun ride.
Nice. And a lot of the times it comes up about mentors during this podcast and interviewers that I do. It's really interesting that basically at this point, it's like half. People had mentors, some people didn't. I had mentors that guided me. what kind of mentors did you have or advisors? And were these
Yeah.
people that, you did mention like account people who are totally non-science. Some of them may understand the science, but not to the complexity that we do. But what kind of mentors did you have throughout your life or your current career journey?
So I would say, in terms of my life, we'll start with my career. I think, the first person that really took me under their wing was the lead account person for, my first job. And I don't know what it was. She just, gravitated to me. She's been in the business. She was in the business probably for like, 40 years, 30, 40 years. So she was seasoned, in terms of, agency life, and she knows all the ins and outs, and she knows all these people, but she kind of took me under her wing. And I don't think she ever realized that she did that and what it meant to me. She told me that her mentor had this expression of when we're not going to curse, but when the crap rolls down the mountain, are you going to be able to catch it? Mm-hmm. And her response was, with both hands. And to this day, that still sticks with me, because it's like, that's what you're doing every day. The crap is falling down the mountain. You got to catch it. Mm-hmm. You got to catch it, get out of its way or block it, and grab it. And every day you grab it, and that's what kind of keeps moving you forward. So she was like really my first mentor. And I don't think she ever realized, or, I don't keep in touch with her, but she retired. And I don't think she realized what impact she had on me, because she kept me going. Mm-hmm. She said to me once, she's like, Kevin, one day you're going to run an agency. I mean, that's not going to happen, because I don't want that to happen. But, when I look at where I am now, it's pretty remarkable. Heading up in the department, and like, wow, I never would have thought this. Then for a while, I didn't really have any true mentors. I didn't have anybody, because then she left, and I didn't really have a true mentor. I had supervisors. And there's a big difference between a mentor and a supervisor. Supervisor is somebody that basically, signs your checks. A mentor is somebody that, it's not about the money. It's not about the work. It's really about you. And, I didn't really have anybody for a while invested in me, invested in my growth, and invested in, my advancement. So I moved on to Neon, and I found that again. And I found that mentorship. There's little ups and downs, and, I had different supervisors for a while, but now I landed on, having another supervisor now who I consider a mentor again. She's made, and her, she's made a huge impact on, the team, on the agency, and has really been that person that I can kind of go to and say, like, I need help, or, I need guidance. And, I'm not judged by asking questions. I'm not judged if I ask questions that I think might be a little bit, elementary, and I should know the answer. It's nice having that again. So, once you find that, I think that's what you need to hang on to.
Yeah, that's good. It's that doesn't come along too often, especially nowadays. And a lot of people are out for themselves, and people are because of that, people just don't want to reach out to other people for that help. Yeah. Now let's get into your career, because that's really what I want to hear about, and the listeners as well. How did you manage to get to where you are? And I mean, to me, it's a pretty fast time frame. Did you get set up for it? Did you just set yourself up? Because it sounds like you have. What it was like to get to this point, and your feelings about being head of a department. And then I have follow-up questions after that.
So it was serendipitous, I think. It was, I was at my first agency, and I didn't really progress fast enough. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's just that they just don't promote fast, or they didn't recognize value, or whatever. So, and this is not to disparage them. I mean, they I got my foot in the door with them, but, when I see that my career isn't going where I want it to go, it's time to move on. So they gave me a wonderful opportunity. I'm always going to cherish that. But, when I came over to Neon, that's where I saw trajectory. That's where I saw, me being in positions that are more, tougher, because you're taking on more responsibility, but more rewarding. And I don't mean monetary. I think it's just, the more responsibility they have, the more it's like, all right, I trust you, and we're talking about senior leadership. It's like, yeah, he can do it. So, it was one of those things where, I joined, and then, the head of department was here for about a year, and then they left, moved on to another agency, and then they brought in somebody else, and that person left. and then they had somebody else kind of overseeing, and then they left. And then it was just me left. But I was there long enough, and I picked up enough of the qualities that it took where they finally just said, all right, Kevin, now it's your shot, right? And I've been at it, I don't know, 3 years now as head of department. And what I loved, and, I won't mention names, but, somebody said to me, because I thanked them for this opportunity. And they said, Kevin, that's because we reward loyalty. And I think that's what it is. And I know we're going to go into the 5 things and, traits or whatever. Loyalty to me is the biggest thing. And I don't necessarily mean loyalty to the company, loyalty to your boss, loyal to, anybody, but it's being loyal to yourself. Knowing that if you're in a situation that, you're not happy with, move on or make that situation better. But what I kept doing was just made that situation better because there was a lot of things, working against me, not having that supervisor, having different supervisors, kind of being on my own. But I kept plugging forward, it was like that. What's that? I use quotes a lot, but, that Rocky Balboa quote, it's not how hard you get hit, it's how hard you get hit, and keep moving forward. And it's true, So I took a lot of hits and I kept moving forward. And, I've been rewarded by, an amazing company of, really, here's a department and, something that I'm always going to be thankful for.
Do you think you have the right skill sets currently, or you feel like you're still growing as a leader?
I think everybody in a leadership position never has all the skills. I think you're constantly learning. And I think that what makes a true leader a leader. You're not, if you think you're coming in thinking that you have everything that it takes to lead, then you're not a leader. You think you're a leader. You have the title, but that doesn't mean you're a leader. I think what I think a leader is somebody that rolls their sleeves up and is doing the work that they used to do 10 years ago, which I like to think I still do. I try to do it. But no, we're constantly learning. You're constantly learning. You have to learn. You have to adapt. You have to grow. You have to adapt as your team grows and as your team adapts. So yeah, no, I don't think I have everything it takes yet.
What is it? What kind of feelings do you have when you think about that you have a team that depends on you to grow, to run basically their brands, their drugs that they're on, and knowing that if things happen, that it kind of falls on you because you're the leader. How is that feeling? I've never, I don't know it personally. So, can you share that feeling or that burden?
I like to surround myself with people that are a lot smarter than me, so I don't have to worry about that.
That's fair.
And it's true, but it's true. It's like, knowing that I have such a strong team, I don't worry at night about, when I go to sleep. I'm not up at night worrying if, they're not going to be able to make it happen. They're not going to be able to get the job done because I know everybody that is on the team is going to be able to do it. I worry about other things, but again, knowing that I have such a strong team that, it's not something for me to worry about. When you become a leader, when you become a department head, it's not about you, and that's what I learned. Like, going up in the ladder, it was about me. It's about what do I need to do to get to that next level. Once you get to this level, it's not about me anymore. It's about the team. So by putting the team first all the time, it kind of makes things, a little bit easier because then I don't have to really worry about myself anymore. It's like, all right, all that stuff is just kind of like, it's there and I'll figure it out later. But my day revolves around the team. The team needs me, I'm there. So I've had supervisors that, it was more about them and less about me. And all I've been doing is the opposite of that. That's kind of where I learned to be, I hope to be an effective leader, is just doing the opposite of what this person was to me. And it was more of, for them, it was I, but that's not really how it works. It's about them. Mm-hmm. I live by that every day. So far, it's working.
Yeah, I would say it does as being a part of your team.
That's right.
What struggles have you faced in your career and, in your career and getting to the point where you are a leader now, what have you faced? Any struggles, any situations that have been hard on you in your getting there to the point where you are now, or even now at the position you are in now?
I would say, struggles. I mean, the biggest struggle that I've experienced, not just, not really in my, if this answers your questions, it's not professional career, is more of the academic, career. It was, that postdoc where I knew I didn't want to do bench work. But now I'm in a position where I'm wasting somebody's time, I'm wasting somebody's money, and I feel really bad about it. And I wasn't sure how to get out of this situation. So, that ended. And for a while, again, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And that was fine. It was scary, but it was fine. That point, I think, is what really defined me, because it was like, all right, now I got to figure out what I want to do. That was a struggle because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was, when you're in your PhD, you're kind of pigeonholed. It's like, all right, all I know how to do is bench work. How do I use this? So that was a struggle, trying to find out exactly what I wanted to do. In terms of the, more professional career, I think it was finding talent. It was finding people that, trust me to be on my team, and not necessarily that they didn't want to work with me. It was just finding that people, there's people out there, but it's finding the right people. That was always a struggle. That's a constant struggle for any manager, is finding that talent.
Well, let's talk about that, finding that talent. I think the listeners would be interested to hearing from your side as someone who is interviewing people and hiring people. Yeah. What are the kind of the qualities that you're looking for in someone, not just the skill set that's needed to do the role, but beyond that?
I mean, I'd look for somebody, first off, that doesn't take themselves too seriously, because you can't. You just can't. You can't. And, in times like this, you can't take yourself too seriously. You have to come in every day. You got to laugh. You got to joke. I wake up every morning and say, it's going to be a good day. That lasts maybe an hour, but at least I try.
Yeah.
Right. But you gotta be somewhat positive, and I know that's hard, but I tend to look for that. I look for more outgoing personalities, and not that being introvert's a problem. It's not. But, we're in a situation where, we work with clients. We do pitches, very high profile pitches with, top pharmaceutical companies. So you got to have somewhat of a dynamic personality. I mean, yeah, people say, well, you're the medical guy, you don't really need to, be that engaging and whatnot. But that's not true. A lot of times it's the medical person that comes in and just wows the client. And you're like, oh, my God, like, look at this. We weren't expecting this. Usually it gets creative. Sometimes the account person, but when the medical person comes in and just kind of dazzles them, it's like, oh wow. So I kind of look for that. I look for that somebody that can have a conversation. I don't need to say that they have to be smart. I mean, we all have advanced degrees by default. We're already smart, but somebody that knows how to manage their time, somebody that knows that, like, this is our job. This is what we got to do. Anything else, let somebody else do it. One thing to go above and beyond in your own job, but I really look for people that can kind of manage their time, on their own. And I don't have to because I don't like to micromanage, and I don't. But somebody that says to me, look, Kevin, I got this, and this is how I'm going to get it done. Somebody that's coming in that has a solution already to their problem. I'm there to help, obviously, but I love when people come in and is more proactive about things.
Mm-hmm. In terms of thinking on the same topic of a person trying to get, into the game right here, how do they, based on your experience, how would they set themselves up to get to maybe a position like yours? Like, what do you think it takes, or what do you think they need to do to get there?
One of my old supervisors called me a bulldog, and I really think that's what it is. It's not, there's no one trait. There's no one thing that you can learn that's going to set you up for success here. It's not like, oh, I know how to write publications, or, I know how to do PowerPoint presentations. That's not it. That's just one part of our jobs. It's, I mean, you know how it is. It's getting into the weeds. It's sifting through large reams of data and finding the solution, and finding, making the science sexy, for lack of a better word, and just, making sense out of the nonsensical, because you're looking at numbers, right? That doctors don't really care, right? What does it really mean to patients? What is this really going to mean to doctors? It's finding those nuggets. It's finding that medical hook that's going to make this exciting. That's really the things that kind of set you up. And that's hard. And that's hard to learn. And that's something that does take years. Like I said, I started as a writer making PowerPoint presentations. That didn't set me up for anything. That just was like, having a PhD, I would say, puts your mind in a different way. It kind of, because we're forced to think. Our brain is rewired, I think, during grad school to kind of think a certain way. So, I've been trained to think very analytical. And because of that, I'm able to look at things a little differently. So it's hard. It's hard to just pick this up and say, this is what I want to do, because it takes time. It takes determination. It takes patience, I think, more than anything. To get to where I am now, it took, I think about 8-9 years. So let's say almost a decade, and that's about average, I would say, to get there. So, it was a wild ride, but again, it was something that you needed to kind of go through. It was trial by fire sometimes, but now I'm in a situation where I don't get into the science as much as I would like to. Funny, because I was watching a video of an old mentor of mine, supervisor really. And, he says now that, he was a PI, he's like, now that he's running a large lab, he hasn't touched a pipette in years, right? He's in his office, he's writing grants, he's doing administrative work, he's HR, he's kind of running a small company. And that's kind of almost how I feel. Because, you deal with, interpersonnel issues, you're dealing with scopes, you're dealing with a lot of different things that I've never learned before, So that's where you kind of have to seek out other people. So like if we're talking about, scopes, which is basically how many hours a person's going to get on a piece of business, to know what percentage of their time they're going to dedicate to this piece of work for the year. Nobody really taught me that. So I sought out account people. I sought out, people who, finance people, say, hey, teach me about this. So it's always asking, it's always questioning. And that's, I'd say if you had to do anything, it's always question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's come up in one of my interviews as well, is just being more proactive than reactive, because no one's going to be your biggest advocate than yourself.
Yeah.
And trying to push yourself to do more and go beyond what you're being asked for shows that you're motivated, but additionally that you want more so you can get to the top, essentially. Right.
Yep.
So I think those are really important questions. What I want to ask you, and I'd be remiss not to ask this question based on what I've been hearing, and maybe the listeners are thinking about it based on the other episodes. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I have. My academic career, for the most part, wasn't very positive. I looked at everybody else, all my peers around me, and they were just, whipping by. They were just incredibly successful. It took a lot of determination, dedication back then, dedication that, it was hard for me to find, because I knew I was in a situation where I didn't want to be there, didn't want to do this anymore, but I had to power through it. And there were times where they even said to me, Kevin, I don't think this is right for you. I don't think this is it.
Oh, wow.
And that started a fire inside me. And I said, no, because when somebody says to me, you can't do this, now I'm going to do the opposite. That was just academia. In terms of, professional career, I mean, sure, we're talking to, we get introduced as doctor this, doctor that, but, we're dealing with medical doctors. So when I interview a lot of medical doctors, a lot of medical doctors, I never faced anyone say, well, you're not an MD, you're a PhD. But you always get the sense that, it's like, does this guy really, is this person really kind of feeling you? Are they really, are they judging you?
Yeah.
So the way I kind of flipped, and that was early on in my career where I was kind of, green and I didn't really know what I was doing. Now I'll go in to any meeting acting as if I belonged, as acting as if I'm supposed to be there, whether it's, being part of the conversation, whether it's demonstrating that you have command of the literature, you have a command of the data, there's no way they can question you. There's no way, So yes, I faced it. Part of it was probably my own doing because that was just me. Part of it is just, I think, the position that we're in. And, we are PhDs, sometimes talking to MDs and, other, healthcare professions where, PhDs isn't really, we're research scientists, let's face it. But we're talking to, people that actually work with patients. You always kind of feel like, are you getting judged? Are you getting kind of questioned? So that's why I kind of go in acting as if, I belong here. It works.
Yeah, it's a bold strategy. I like it.
Yeah.
Sure, it works 99% of the time.
Yeah. It's that 1% that it's like,
yeah.
Do I want to do this?
Yeah, just hit the emergency button. You got an emergency. What gets you up in the morning? What gets you really excited about your job or about what you do that you're like, I'm up. I'm going to go do this?
I mean, one is just the workload. I mean, that's just, there's a lot that I got to do. But two, and it goes back to what you said earlier, is that I have a group of individuals that, is looking for my support, is looking for my guidance. If it was just me, all right, maybe I'd stay in bed an extra half hour, but knowing that I have a lot of other people that do rely on me, and not just, the team, but, obviously there's an entire agency that looks to me to make some decisions. It's like, all right, I got to get up, and I get up because I want to get up. I don't get up because I have to get up. I get up because I want to. Knowing that, hey, who's going to happen today? Is it going to be a good day? Is it going to be a tough day? What kind of day is it going to be? It's going to be a day. That's all I can say. But knowing that when I get to my computer, and usually I'm at my computer pretty early, but knowing that everybody gets on usually around 9:15, and the messenger starts up and the emails come in, and I start getting questions from the team and whatnot. Like that's what drives me, because it's like that's what I enjoy doing. The day-to-day, busy work that I do, it's like, I got to do it, but that kind of work takes me away from career development, of the team, of helping them move forward. I the one-on-ones that I have with the team, that's really important to me. I see those as therapy sessions, not just for them, but for me as well, because, it's just a way to get to know the person. It's a way for me to kind of interact with them on a level that I may not normally be able to do when there's other people in the room or, on the call. You get to know the person, you get to know really what, where they're coming from. The more I get to interact with somebody, the more I can help them with the issues that they're having. If I don't know somebody, it's hard for me to do that, because it's like, I don't know you. I don't know what you're like. The more I get to know somebody, the more I can help them, provide guidance, offer support, that type of thing. So that's what gets me up, really.
That's motivating to hear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Except for you.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I felt that was coming.
Yeah.
So I always ask the same questions to everybody, and I would like to hear what you have to say. So in terms of your career or your life, whatever falls, or you want to talk about both, what are the best and worst moments that you've had?
Yeah.
I want the listeners, I always say this to them, I just want them to hear that the people on the other side of this mic are human.
In my life, or the career, or
both.
Yeah.
Or maybe they encompass both. There's been definitely examples of that.
We're going to get dark now.
All right. Do what you got to do.
So what defined me as a person, I was probably, I think, 13 or 14. My father left. Basically abandoned us. And, I had a little brother. He was, I think, seven or eight. maybe younger. And it was my mom. It was just the three of us and my grandmother upstairs. And I didn't cry, didn't shed a tear. You know, I mean, I was still fairly young. Haven't spoken to my father since then. I don't know where he is. But it's when I became an adult. You know, I was a 13-year-old, you know, entering my teenage years. I should be out having fun and whatnot. And I couldn't. I had to say, all right, I have to cut the grass. I have to do this. I have to make sure the garbage is taken out. I have to get a job. I have to go to school. I have to make sure everybody's taken care of. All right. That point in my life, that was, you know, that was really the turning point. That was the inflection point. You know, I've had 2 inflection points in my life, and that was the first one, you know, and that's where it was like, it was time to step up. It was time to take charge. And it was time to just say, all right, you know, I could do this. That was probably the worst point in my life in terms of when you look up to somebody, you think they're your mentor, but they're actually the anti-mentor. So sometimes you learn a lot from the anti-mentor, which I unfortunately happens to be, you know, a parent. That's probably the worst part of my life, but it was the most life-changing moment in my life. And it kind of made me who I am today, which for, you know, good or bad, you know, but that was probably something that really described who I'm going to be. Basically, you know, painted my picture. The best moment I would say is when in my, let's do career is, you know, because in my life, I can say, you know, the day I was married, the day, you know, my 2 kids were born, you know, I could do that. But I would say the best point of my life, of my career was when I got handed an envelope, and inside that envelope was, you're being promoted to SVP. I wasn't even looking for it. I wasn't even asking for it. I wasn't even expecting it. You know, it was during my, you know, annual review. They handed this to me and they said, open it. All right, I'll open it. And I'm looking at it. I said, I'm either getting fired or something's going on. I open it up and I'm reading. And I mean, I choked up. I got a little, you know, I was like, wow. Like, when I think back of what happened when I was a kid and not having, you know, both parents, well, having one parent, obviously, but not having that father figure to that moment 30 years later, you're like, wow, you know, this is special. Like you know, under all this adversity, I was still able to achieve this. And to me, that's, you know, I'm still in shock. I kept the letter. I don't know. I think it's in here somewhere. I kept the letter because it's just, that to me was like, wow, you know, I was able to do it. So maybe that's part of that whole imposter syndrome, that maybe my whole life, you know, I've been an imposter because I had so much working against me.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe I didn't belong here. Maybe I'm supposed to just be, you know, going to work, coming home, doing this. Like, no, like I was meant to do something bigger. And they handed it to me. And that's why that's why I take my job so seriously. And I mean, you know me, like, you know, sometimes I'll get, you know, a little emotional, but that's the passion. That's the passion. There's a reason behind, you know, that passion. There's a driving force that most people don't know. Well, now I guess a lot of people know. I don't know how many listeners you got, but you know, that's the reason why I am the way I am. And I wouldn't change that for the world.
That's an amazing story. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt it for you as you were talking about the letter. I thought you were going to say you got fired and then you came, but maybe a different kind of letter.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, that's amazing. That's really motivating to hear for me and for the listeners. To maybe it's not a letter. Obviously, we're in different times, but you know, to finally get to that point where did you have like a flashback of just that moment where you're thinking about everything you've suffered and dealt with in your life, and then like graduation, your dad leaving, or any other issues that came, and then you open that letter and you see it. Like, what was going? I'm just so curious to hear what was going through you, or if you remember what was going through your head.
I remember. I had to meet my old boss. It was one of our agencies in Jersey, and I remember we were in a corner office. She shut the door, and she just handed this to me, and it was just like, you know, you get chills. You know, I got chills, and then afterwards, I met my wife for pizza. I mean, that was like that was
so
like
romantic.
Yeah, it was just like, I don't know. It's hard to explain how I felt. And, that's for me. But like, when I think about other people, look, just, making it to, the next level, that's a success, because it shows that your efforts are rewarded. But, for me, I'm the type of person that's always looking for the next thing, like in terms of, how do I progress? How do I keep moving up? Because eventually I'm going to hit a ceiling. And that's true for, all of us, is that we're always going to hit that level where that's it. We attained godhood, and that's it. Like in Diablo, I think the highest level is 70 or whatever, 75. So that's it. You can't go any higher. You have that level cap.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm approaching that level cap, but I still have a way to go before I even get to that. We also define our own level cap. We always, we can also say, well, I don't want to go any higher. But I still want to go. I still want to get there. I want to see what else is up there. Because there's still a lot of rungs left up there. So we'll see. It's more about when I'm at this level, whatever level you're at, it's moving. It's also moving vertically or horizontally. What's this way? This would be
that's horizontal.
Horizontal, right? It's that horizontal growth that I think is just as important, because you have to get the foundation down before you move on to that next level. Some people want to move to that next level too fast. Some people, are okay staying at that level, but it's really getting that foundation down that's so important to set you up for success for that next level. And that's, I think, where I'm at now, is that now I'm learning all these other things that, fine tuning a couple things here and there. And I'm far from perfect, but, that gets back to like what we said before about, learning every day. And that's what I keep doing, because, like I said, get to that next level. That's a good goal to have.
No, absolutely. And I think I've heard other people talk about that. They like where they are. They don't want those responsibilities like you. They're fine staying at a certain point. They've reached their level cap, but then there's other people that are highly motivated that want to keep going. Yeah. Sometimes they move a little too fast, and then that kind of hurts other people around them. And, sometimes that's their fault. Sometimes it's the other people's fault who put them in that position. But, at the end of the day, they have to manage themselves and succeed, because it affects everyone. And it doesn't matter if it's our industry in our world or a different type of job out there. It's a team effort almost all the time. And I think that's a really important value to understand. So the other final question I have for you is, what are 5 essential things you think you have that have helped you succeed in life or your career? Obviously, with you could do 5 of one, 2 to 3, whatever ratio you want to do, but it's up to you.
So words or characteristics or
however you want to say it.
5 things.
5 things.
5 things that have led to my success, or that I needed to have to get to that.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, this is to help the listeners.
Yeah.
If you sat in front of them and they asked you, like, what are 5 things that could help me succeed?
Yeah. what
are they?
Like I said, I can go to the obvious of determination, dedication, all that stuff, but that doesn't matter. Like, you have to do that. Like that's cost of entry, to what you got to do. And I think it goes back to one of the things I said before, is loyalty. Not loyalty to your boss, not loyalty to the company, but loyalty to yourself. In the sense that if you're in a situation that you don't want to be in, either improve it or move on. Like, because then you're not going to do anybody any good. So loyalty to yourself is so important. I think, camaraderie, I think, is important. I think you have to know how to work well with others. And I know that is so hard. In our industry, it's really hard because you're dealing with a lot of different personalities. I mean, everybody's good. I mean, they're all good folks, and everybody just wants to do a good job. But it's so important to be able to do that. You never know when you're going to need somebody. You never know when you're going to need to call in a favor. You never know when, hey, I have something due in an hour. Can you help? You never know. I think. When I think of myself as a leader, I think it's, I don't know how to express it in one word, but, it's I mean, I don't want to say Papa Bear, but I think that's kind of how I am. I think, it's standing up for your team, even if it puts me in a situation where now I'm like, uh-oh, like this may not be a good situation, but I remained loyal to the team. You're only as good as your team. I can't do what I do without who I have now. Can't do it. Can't do it by myself. I can't do it with one person. I can't do it with two people. I need a team, right? And that's what we have. So me standing up for them, or as for your listeners, it's make sure that if you do have a team, always back them up. Never put them in a position where they're not going to feel they have your support. You lose them once, you're never going to get them back. That's it. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's one of those things that comes with time. But I think no, actually, let me say that again. It is easy. It's not hard to back up your team. It's not hard to say, no, this is what, they need to do. This is why they did what they did. And this is why I'm backing them up and why I'm supporting them. Mm-hmm. So I think you got to stay true to the team. You can't go against the family. You can't go against La Familia. That's so important. You got to know when it's time to shut off. And I don't know how to do that yet. When it's time to just say, all right, I'm shutting off the computer. I'm going to go watch TV. I'm going to go play with my kids. I'm going to go, have dinner with my wife, whatever. You got to know how to balance your stuff, especially in times like this, where now that we're still home, my day could just go longer because I'm home. I don't have to worry about the commute anymore. You got to know how to balance it. You got to know that you have to have that quality of life. And then it's don't take yourself too seriously. Everybody else is just going to laugh at you. And, and that's what they do anyway. Everybody's laughing at everybody. And that's fine. They can laugh at me. But it's because I don't take myself seriously. I may be serious in meetings. I may be serious with clients or with my pitches. But when it comes down to it, I'm not going to take myself seriously because why? I can't. With all the things that I had that happened in me during my life, I can't take it seriously. I just can't, Mm-hmm. You got to laugh at things. You have to, and even this year alone, I lost my mom. So I'm not saying it's a funny situation, but it's one of those things that it's like, all right, you learn from it. You grow from it. You mourn when you have to mourn. You reflect when it's time to reflect. You got to keep moving because once you get caught up in the weeds, once you get caught up in a situation where now everything is just dumped on you and you feel all this emotion, you got to laugh, So maybe that's it. Maybe that's the answer. Is just laugh. Laugh every day. Even if it's a wicked laugh, even if it's a naughty laugh. As long as you laugh, just laugh because it really is the best medicine. Whether I'm laughing at somebody or if I'm laughing at myself or, sometimes I'll get on camera and I'm wearing a costume. I'm wearing my Peppa Pig costume. Surprise everybody.
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that one yet. But I've done that, or, it's just doing silly things to get a laugh out of people. Because I know I can be a source of, frustration at times. But again, that goes back to my passion. But I think, laughing is just so important. Got to do it.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Yeah. Totally agree. I think the other thing between us, we always make jokes, just to chill, especially after a stressful day, dealing with people and clients and,
I mean, you can start your day screaming, because I'll sit at my desk and I'll just do, like they did I love these movie quotes in summer school where it wasn't Chainsaw, it was the other guy, Francis, I think his name was. But right before the test, he just, I don't know, you probably haven't seen the movie because you're looking at me like you haven't seen it. But he just screams. He just, grabs his head and he just screams. And then he takes the test. And I think he still fails it, but that's fine. But the other guy passed. Do that in the beginning of the day. Get it out. Because it's only going to get worse. But at the end of the day, end it with a joke. Because that's really all you can do. We take ourselves sometimes a little too seriously. Take the job seriously. That's what I will say. Take the job seriously because, we have a lot of people that, rely on us. We have clients that are paying a lot of money for us. Take that aspect of your life seriously because that's going to be rewarding. but don't take yourself seriously, because that's where, once you do, I think that's where things start getting a little iffy. That's where it could go down a route that you don't want to go down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just read the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Or read your own room.
Exactly.
So Kevin, we're wrapping up now. Is there any last departing words of wisdom that you'd like our listeners to know, or anything you want to follow up on or ask me?
I mean, I think, if you have any listeners that want to do this, definitely, talk to people first. Talk to people who are in this field that are doing this type of work. I think, what you'll hear is, again, it's such an amazing job to have. It's something that, again, I never thought that I'd be able to do. I know a lot of people with PhDs, again, they're still not sure what they want to do after they leave. Even knowing, I think now I feel like there's more options than there was, 10 years ago. But just talk to people. There's a lot of us now in advertising. When I first started, there wasn't that many. There's a lot of us now, because I think there's a lot of people that are leaving academia. They're either going to industry, the pharmaceutical side, or they're going to advertising. But it seems like academia is just not as enticing for a number of reasons. And, it takes, really, dedicated people to do that. And I look up to them, and I really admire them to kind of stick in with that, because it takes dedication. It takes a drive to do that. And, it's amazing that they're able to accomplish it. But doing what we do, man, it's just so exciting. And, I definitely urge people to look into it. Don't look into my job, because I'm not ready to give it up yet. But I think, definitely, yeah, but definitely, look into medical writing, look into, medical director. We have this amazing position at our company as a research associate. It's somebody who kind of just got out of grad school, pharmacy school, and it kind of it's a very it's a high impact job, because it's we really rely on them, but you really are learning. You're getting exposed to so many things, and it really kind of helps you with the tricks of the trade. So I would just say, like I said, just keep questioning, keep talking, keep asking, because that's the only way you're going to learn. But don't give up. Never, ever, ever give up. Don't be that imposter. Don't be that, person where it says, well, everybody's telling me I can't do this. Nah. That just gave me the willpower to prove everybody wrong. Not perfect. I'll get it wrong sometimes, but, baseball players that hit the ball 3 out of 10 times end up in the Hall of Fame. So I'll take that, if I succeed 3 out of 10 days, that's not good, but, all right, so maybe I'm batting 700. That's not bad.
I don't watch baseball.
That's better than Ted Williams. But
one of my friends in my lab, he had words of wisdom when it came to, he was very introverted. He would say, shoot your shots. You got to shoot your shots. You don't make any shots that you don't take. And, it was good. I liked it. And definitely took that to heart. And he was a very silly guy, but that was probably the most intelligent thing he had ever told me.
It's true. It's true. You never know. You never know what's going to happen unless you do it. Take that leap. Like I said, in between my postdoc and my, my actually advertising career, there was a number of months where I wasn't, I was looking to figure out what to do. That's scary. It's scary just to say, I'm going to put everything aside and just figure out what I want to do. Yeah. I know a lot of people that have been doing that. They're shooting their shot, and it's like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. But you never know. You're always going to find something. There's always going to be something. But finding that perfect fit, it's like finding, your perfect match in a spouse. Yeah. It's 1 in a million sometimes. It's finding that perfect connection. Same thing with the job. Same thing with the career. You never know you never know what's out there until you look. Mm-hmm.
Kevin, thank you so much for your time and the words of wisdom. And I really appreciate everything you've said today. are the listeners able to reach out to you maybe on LinkedIn to learn more, or maybe ask a couple questions, things like that?
Of course, absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story with us. That was a great story.
Thank you,
listeners. I hope you gained plenty of insights today. This is the beginning of becoming a someone, but specifically the someone you always wanted to be. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please do give me a like and review and subscribe. You can also visit the website, the Dr. Nobody podcast, to learn more about my guests and listen to the episode again. Thanks again for listening in to the Dr. Nobody podcast, where we turn nobodies to somebodies. Talk to you all very soon.